I've always been the kind of guy who believes in the sanctity of marriage. When I married Sarah 4 years ago, I thought we had something special. We had a beautiful wedding, an amazing honeymoon in Hawaii, and settled into a cozy house in a quiet neighborhood. Life was good, or so I thought. But lately, things had felt off. It started with the little things. Sarah, usually so affectionate and attentive, began to pull away. I'd catch her on her phone more frequently, always angled away from me like she was hiding something. She'd go out with her friends more often, claiming it was just girl time. Initially, I didn't think much of it. Every couple needs their space, right? But then I noticed her spending habits change, new clothes, fancy dinners. And there I was, working my ass off to support us both. One night, I came home early from work. I was excited to surprise her with dinner, only to find her car in the driveway but the house dark. I knocked on the door, thinking she might have stepped out for a moment, but there was no answer. I was confused. I texted her and she replied, almost instantly, saying she was out with the girls. My gut twisted. Then it happened. Just a couple of days later, I was cleaning out my closet and there it was, a receipt for a restaurant I knew she hadn't taken me to. The date on it was 2 weeks ago. I sat there staring at it, a thousand thoughts racing through my mind. Something inside me snapped and I suddenly felt the urge to dig deeper. I started asking around, casually probing her friends about her nights out. A close friend of hers, Jenna, accidentally let slip that Sarah had been spending time with our real estate agent, Mike. They'd been looking at properties together. She had mentioned wanting to move, but I always assumed it was just talk. The next day, I decided to follow her. I had to know. I waited until she left for her supposed girls' night out and discreetly followed her car. My heart raced as I tracked her to a trendy bar downtown. I parked a couple of blocks away and kept my distance. After a while, I saw Sarah walk in and my stomach dropped. I watched through a window as she laughed and flirted with Mike. They leaned in close, sharing drinks, looking far more than just friends. That's when reality hit me like a freight train. I could hardly breathe. I felt the rage bubbling inside me. I couldn't believe she was doing this and with someone I trusted. I sat in my car for what felt like hours, trying to process the betrayal. I had visions of what my life was supposed to look like, and here it was disintegrating before my eyes. Confronting her was almost a necessity after witnessing that. The next morning, I walked in with an intensity that I could barely contain. Sarah was in the kitchen, sipping coffee and scrolling through her phone, looking so oblivious. I dropped the bomb on her. "Who's Mike?" I asked, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. She looked up, shock painted across her face, but it quickly faded into that classic defensive look, the one I knew all too well. "What are you talking about?" She snapped, trying to play innocent. I laid the evidence out, describing every detail I saw through that window. Her expression morphed into a concoction of annoyance and guilt. She brushed it off, claiming it was all innocent, just business. "Really? Because I saw you flirting with him. You're obviously lying," I shot back, anger surging through me. She backtracked, her tone becoming icy. "Oh, come on, don't be ridiculous. You're blowing this out of proportion," she said with a dismissive wave of her hand as if I was the one who was being irrational. In that moment, I felt my heart shatter. I had put my trust into this woman and she was sitting across from me, looking me in the eyes and lying. I could feel a change inside me, a shift from shock to a cold, steely determination. I couldn't let her manipulate me anymore. The pain morphed into anger, and suddenly I knew I had to do something. But what? What could I do to make her feel even a fraction of what I was feeling? My mind raced as I brainstormed the perfect revenge. This wasn't just about my heart being broken. No, it was deeper than that. I had to reclaim control. The thought of her and Mike together made my blood boil, but I wasn't going to let her get away with this without consequences. It was time to take action. As I sat there, my mind started to form a plan that would not only give me satisfaction but would also prevent her from ever stepping foot in my dream home again. Little did Sarah know, I had been saving up for something big, something that would teach her a lesson, and I wasn't planning on holding back. Next part to follow. Once the confrontation ended, I felt like a different person. The emotional turmoil was still fresh, but there was a strange sense of clarity amidst the chaos. I had seen the betrayal firsthand. I knew I had to act decisively. The idea of revenge started to take shape in my mind, and an exhilarating, albeit dark, excitement coursed through me. The first step was straightforward enough. I needed to gather resources. I had been saving up for a house, our dream house, something we had talked about constantly but never pursued because we were preoccupied with other things. I decided that if Sarah was going to cheat on me with our real estate agent, I might as well make my dream a reality without her. I knew. The perfect property. It was in a different part of town, on a quiet street, with a beautiful backyard and enough room for a small garden, just what I had always wanted. I remembered Sarah saying she adored that neighborhood during one of our early discussions about houses. Little did she know, it was about to become my domain alone. I reached out to Mike. It felt wrong, but I needed him if I wanted to make this work. I sent him a message that simply read, "Let's talk about a property." I could feel the tension in my gut as I hit send, knowing that he would have no idea what I had in mind. When we met, I played it cool. I acted like nothing was wrong, like I was just another client looking for the perfect house. Mike was charming as ever, talking about the current market trends and what properties were available. As he spoke, I could feel my anger simmering beneath the surface. He casually dropped into conversation that Sarah had been talking about moving, and I had to bite my tongue to suppress the rage swelling inside me. "Yeah, I think I'm ready to make a move," I said, forcing a smile. "I'm looking for something special." As we toured various houses, I was struck with a twisted sense of satisfaction. I could picture Sarah walking through these homes, her eyes lighting up, all the while completely unaware that this was all part of my plan to banish her from my life, the way she had banished my trust. Finally, we arrived at the one I had been dreaming about. The park-like backyard, the spacious kitchen, and the cozy fireplace. It had everything I wanted. I could already see myself there, living peacefully, far removed from the chaos Sarah had brought into my life. Mike saw the gleam in my eyes and encouraged me to make an offer, going so far as to say that it was a steal in the current market. With a newfound resolve, I made an offer that same week. I didn't just want to buy a house. I wanted it to be a power move. I wanted Sarah to feel the sting of the betrayal she had inflicted upon me, and this was the perfect way to do it. I could see it now, her face when she found out. I had bought a house without her, a house we had discussed but never pursued together. I could almost taste the revenge. The offer was accepted, and I was ecstatic. I felt giddy with excitement, and for the first time since the discovery, I felt a sense of control returning to my life. It was exhilarating, but the excitement was mixed with a touch of apprehension. What would this mean for my relationship with Sarah? Would she try to fight back? Once the paperwork was finalized, I began planning how I would break the news to her. I wanted to do it in a way that would highlight her betrayal, so she knew exactly why she was being punished. I settled on a calm evening when I knew she would be home and in a good mood. I'd catch her off guard, and I wanted to savor that moment when the reality of what I had done set in. As the day approached, I prepared myself mentally. I rehearsed what I would say, envisioning her reaction. First shock, then anger, followed by regret. I imagined her trying to sweet-talk her way back into my good graces, but this time I would. Let her, I had already seen too much, and I wasn't going to let her manipulate me again. When the day finally arrived, I walked into the house with a sense of purpose. Sarah was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone and laughing at something with a friend. My heart raced, but I kept my expression neutral, trying to hide the storm of emotions swirling inside me. "Hey, can we talk?" I asked, trying to sound casual. She looked up, her brow furrowing slightly. "Sure, what's up?" I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "I did something significant today, and I think you should know about it." Her interest piqued, and she set her phone aside. "What is it?" I paused for a moment, letting the anticipation build. "I bought a house." The statement hung in the air like a lead weight. Sarah's expression shifted from curiosity to confusion and then to disbelief. "What, are you serious?" "Yep, it's my dream house," I said, keeping my tone level. "You know, the one we always talked about." "You can't be serious. We were supposed to do this together," she exclaimed. her voice rising in pitch. I held my ground, enjoying the way her facade began to crack. "Well, that was before you decided to cheat on me with Mike. I figured if you wanted to go behind my back, I might as well get something out of it too." Her face twisted in anger. "You don't know what you're talking about. I can explain." "No, you can't," I interjected, cutting her off. "I've seen enough. You chose him over me. Now you'll have to deal with the consequences." Her eyes blazed with fury, and I could see the wheels turning in her mind as she tried to regain control of the conversation. "You're being ridiculous. You think this is going to teach me a lesson. You're just making it worse." "Am I?" I replied, my heart pounding with a mixture of triumph and anxiety. "I think this is exactly what you deserve. Enjoy your girl time at home while I enjoy my new place." The conversation spiraled into chaos, with Sarah throwing accusations and insults, trying to play the victim. But none of it fazed me anymore. I had made my decision, and I wasn't going back. As I walked away from that conversation, I felt lighter, more in control. I had reclaimed my power, even if it was in a way that might seem petty to some. But to me, it was justice, and there was no turning back now. Next part to follow. After that explosive conversation with Sarah, my life took a sharp turn. The emotional whirlwind left me feeling exhilarated but also uneasy. I had taken a bold step, one that would reshape my entire existence. I was moving into my dream house, and Sarah would have no part in it. I reveled in the thought of having my own space, somewhere I could heal and reclaim my sense of self. The days leading up to the move were filled with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. I found myself packing up our things, separating the life we had built together. As I sorted through our possessions, memories flooded back, moments of laughter, joy, and even the mundane everyday life. Each item I packed seemed to weigh heavier than the last. But I reminded myself of the betrayal that had set this all in motion. One evening, as I was packing, Sarah tried to talk to me again. She approached me cautiously, her expression softer, almost desperate. "Can we just sit down and talk this through? I made a mistake and I want to fix it," she pleaded. I wasn't in the mood for her games. "Fix it? You think it's that easy? You've broken trust, Sarah. What do you expect me to do? Just pretend it didn't happen?" She looked down, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I know I messed up, but I love you and I want us to work. Please, let's go to couples therapy or something." I shook my head. "You should have thought about that before you decided to sleep with Mike. This isn't just a mistake, it's a betrayal, and now I need to focus on my future, one that doesn't include you." Her face twisted in anger again, frustration spilling over. "You're being so dramatic, you're throwing everything away over one mistake." "No," I countered, my voice steady. "You're throwing everything away. I'm just responding to it." As I continued packing, I felt a surge of freedom with every box I taped shut. The weight of my old life was lifting, and I began to envision a new beginning. I imagined decorating my new space, filling it with things that reflected who I was now. No more compromises, no more lies. Finally, the moving day arrived. Friends showed up to help, and I was grateful for their support. As they loaded boxes into the truck, I felt a sense of purpose. Sarah didn't come out to help. She remained inside, sulking in her defeat. I didn't blame her. I was sure she was grappling with the reality of what was happening. I knew it hurt, but I also knew it was what I needed to do. With each trip loading the truck, I felt liberated. I could barely contain my excitement as we drove to my new home. The moment we pulled into the driveway, I felt a rush of adrenaline. This was it, my sanctuary. The house was exactly as I remembered it, and I could already envision how I would transform it. Walking through the door, I took a deep breath, inhaling the fresh energy that permeated the space. I couldn't wait to make it my own. As I settled in, I felt a mix of relief and sadness. The reality of my situation hit me fully now. I was alone. I had chosen this path, and while I felt empowered, the solitude also weighed heavily on my heart. Nights were the hardest. I could still hear echoes of laughter in my mind, memories of Sarah and me together. It was a struggle not to dwell on what once was. I was still grieving the relationship I had poured my heart into. In a twist of fate, Sarah attempted to reach out again. She sent texts trying to sound casual, asking how I was settling in. I ignored them at first, but as the days passed, her persistence grew more pronounced. She even called a couple of times, leaving voicemails that ranged from pleading to angry, demanding answers. One night I finally cracked and replied. I kept it simple. I'm fine, this is my new home. Her response was immediate. You can't just leave things like this. We need to talk face to face. I still love you. I felt a wave of anger mixed with pity. How could she still claim to love me after everything? I decided to meet her, just to put an end to her attempts at manipulation. I proposed we meet in a public space, somewhere neutral like a cafe. When the day came, I felt a knot of tension in my stomach. As I entered the cafe, I spotted her sitting at a corner table, her eyes scanning the room nervously. She looked different, more vulnerable. I could see the weariness etched on her face. "Hey," I said, taking a seat across from her. "Hey," she said softly, biting her lip. "Thanks for meeting me." I nodded, not wanting to make this any more emotional than it needed to be. "Let's get straight to the point. What do you want?" She took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. "I want to apologize again. I know what I did was unforgivable, but I want to make it right. I don't want to lose you." The sincerity in her voice was almost convincing, but I had learned to guard my heart. "You've already lost me, Sarah. You need to face that reality. I can't just pretend everything is okay. Trust is broken." Her eyes filled with tears and she leaned forward, pleading, "Please give me another chance. I'll do anything. I'll go to therapy, I swear. I'll prove to you that I can be better." I sighed, feeling a mix of frustration and pity. "You should have thought about that before. I'm done being the person who gets hurt over and over again. I need to focus on rebuilding my life, and you're not part of that anymore." The words hung between us, heavy with finality. I could see the realization wash over her, and for a moment I felt a flicker of sadness. But it faded quickly, replaced by the strength I had gained from this entire experience. "Just go home, Sarah. We're done," I said, standing up. As I walked away, I felt a mix of emotion, sadness, relief, and a strange sense of triumph. I was moving forward while she was left behind, grappling with her choices. I had reclaimed my life, and as much as it hurt, I knew it was the right decision. In the days that followed, I immersed myself in making my new house a home. I painted the walls, set up furniture, and filled the space with things that made me happy. I began to feel a sense of peace, slowly healing from the wounds Sarah had inflicted on me. And while I still had moments of doubt and sadness, they were fleeting. I was building my new life, and nothing could take that away from me. Next part to follow. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself settling into a new rhythm. My new home was slowly transforming into a sanctuary, and with every addition, I felt more at peace. I filled the living room with furniture that reflected my taste, rearranged the kitchen to make it functional, and even planted a small garden in the backyard. Each step I took in making this place my own was both empowering and liberating. However, there were moments of weakness. Some nights when the quiet enveloped me, I'd catch myself thinking about Sarah. I'd reminisce about the good times, the laughs we shared, and the dreams we had built together. But then, just as quickly, the memories of betrayal would flood my mind, her laughter with Mike, the lies she told. I had to remind myself that those moments were gone, and I was better off without them. To keep my mind occupied, I started reconnecting with friends. I reached out to a few guys from college and began hanging out more. We would grab drinks, watch games, and share stories about life and love. It felt good to laugh again, even if it was bittersweet. I found comfort in their experiences, and seeing them made me realize I wasn't alone. Many had faced their own heartaches, and it was refreshing to share the burden of those struggles. But then, just as I was beginning to feel comfortable in my new life, I received a message from Mike. My stomach churned as I read his name appear on my phone. I hesitated before opening his text, feeling a mix of curiosity and dread. What could he possibly want? "Hey, can we talk? It's important." I took a deep breath before responding. "What's this about?" "I think we need to discuss Sarah. I don't want to get into it over text. Can we meet?" I debated whether or not to respond. Part of me wanted to ignore him completely, but I was curious about what he had to say. After some back and forth, we agreed to meet at a nearby diner the next day. When I arrived, I found Mike sitting in a booth, looking more serious than I'd ever seen him. He was usually so jovial, so confident, but today he appeared uneasy. I slid into the seat across from him, and for a moment neither of us spoke. "Thanks for coming," he said finally, his voice low. "Just get to the point," I replied, my patience wavering. He sighed, rubbing his temples. "I feel like I owe you an explanation. Sarah and I, it wasn't what you think. I didn't know she was with you when we started seeing each other. I didn't mean for it to happen." I stared at him, incredulous. "You think that makes it better? You both betrayed me. I know that, and I'm sorry for my part in it. But I wanted to tell you that she's been trying to reach out to me since you two split," he continued. "She's been saying things that concern me, things about how she wants to get back together with you." The revelation hit me like a punch to the gut. I felt a mixture of anger and confusion surge through me. "Why are you telling me this? Why should I care?" "Because I don't want you to get hurt more than you already have," he said, his voice earnest. "I think she's trying to manipulate both of us. She's not being honest about what she really wants." I leaned back, digesting his words. "What do you mean?" "She told me she regrets everything and wants to rekindle things with you. But she also has been talking about how she's unhappy with me," he confessed. "I'm not trying to take sides, I just want to be transparent." I narrowed my eyes, feeling the betrayal deepen. "So she's playing us both, that's classic Sarah." "Exactly," Mike said, his face flushed with frustration. "I just thought you should know. I don't want to be caught up in any more drama." I mulled over his words. Part of me wanted to lash out at him, but I also appreciated the honesty he was showing. It was complicated, and I didn't know whether to trust him. After all, he had been a part of the betrayal, but in this moment he seemed genuine. "What do you want me to do with this information?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. "Just be careful," he replied. "I know you want to heal, but don't let her pull you back into that chaos. You deserve better." As we parted ways, I felt a weight in my chest. Mike's warning echoed in my mind, and I realized I had to prepare for whatever Sarah might try next. She was clearly desperate to grasp onto something she had lost, a reality she couldn't control anymore. That night I sat on my new porch, contemplating my next moves. I needed to stay grounded and focused on my future, but I also couldn't ignore the potential storm that was brewing. I had already felt the sting of betrayal once. I wasn't about to let it happen again. Days passed, and I kept my distance from Sarah, ignoring her texts and avoiding her calls. I focused on my work, my friends, and building my new life. But I knew she wouldn't give up easily. The thought of her trying to manipulate the situation again lingered in the back of my mind. Then, one evening, as I was organizing my garage, I heard a knock on my door. When I opened it, I was met with Sarah standing there, looking vulnerable and disheveled. My heart raced as I took in her appearance. She was a stark contrast to the confident woman I once knew. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice trembling. I hesitated, weighing my options. I could slam the door and cut her out for good, but something compelled me to let her in. "Fine," I said, stepping aside to let her enter. The moment she walked in, I felt the tension in the air. "I've been trying to reach you," she said, her gaze darting around the room, taking in all the changes. "Yeah, I noticed," I replied, crossing my arms. "What do you want, Sarah? I'm done playing games." "I know I messed up," she said, her voice cracking. "But I need to explain everything. Can you just listen?" As she began to speak, I braced myself for the emotional manipulation I had grown accustomed to. "I've spent a lot of time thinking about what I did," she continued, her voice shaky. "I regret it more than I can express. I want us to try again." "Really? You think I'm just going to forget all of this?" I asked, gesturing between us. "You cheated on me, Sarah. You shattered my trust." "I know," she responded, her voice rising with urgency. "But I'm willing to change. I'll do whatever it takes to make it right. I miss you." I felt a pang of frustration. Deep down, there was a part of me that had hoped for a genuine apology, but it felt more like a rehearsed speech. "You can't just come back into my life and pretend like everything is okay. You hurt me and you need to own that." "I know, and I am, but I love you and I want to fix this," she insisted, her eyes pleading. "Your love doesn't erase what you did," I retorted, my heart hardening. "You had your chance and you threw it away." The desperation in her expression deepened. "Please, just give me a chance to prove myself. I'll go to therapy, I'll do everything." I shook my head, feeling resolute. "You should have thought about that before. I've been healing, Sarah. I do want to get dragged back into your mess." As she stood there, tears streaming down her cheeks, I felt a mix of anger and pity. I didn't want to hurt her, but I also couldn't let her hurt me again. I had come too far to let her back into my life without consequences. "I'm sorry you're hurting," I said, softening slightly. "But I need to focus on me now. I can't do that if you're in the picture." With that, I walked toward the door, ready to end the conversation. As I opened it, I glanced back at her. "Take care of yourself, Sarah." I closed the door behind me, my heart pounding. I felt drained but also strangely liberated. I had stood my ground, and for the first time since everything fell apart, I felt in control. As I retreated to my new sanctuary, I reminded myself that I was moving forward and there was no looking back. Next part to follow. After the confrontation with Sarah, I felt a rush of mixed emotions. There was a part of me that was relieved to have put my foot down, but I also felt an ache from the memories of what we once shared. I still couldn't shake the feeling that she would try to draw me back into her world of chaos. It was an unsettling thought, but I knew I couldn't let her manipulate me again. The weeks went by, and I buried myself in my work and my new home. I made it a point to take care of myself, focusing on my own well-being. I joined a local gym, started cooking healthier meals, and even picked up a few hobbies I had once abandoned. I was building a life for myself that I could be proud of, one where I didn't have to look over my shoulder worrying about betrayal. But just when I thought I was settling into a new routine, Sarah made her next move. One evening, I received an unexpected knock on my door. When I opened it, I was met with a familiar sight. Mike stood there looking anxious. "Can we talk? It's important," he said, his expression serious. I hesitated, feeling a sense of dread. "What's going on? Can we sit?" he asked. I nodded and led him into the living room, my heart racing. I wasn't sure what to expect, but the tension in the air was palpable. Once we were seated, Mike took a deep breath. "I don't know how to say this, but Sarah has been trying to manipulate me too," he began, his voice steady. "I didn't want to believe it at first, but she's been telling me things that don't add up. She's still trying to play both sides." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" He leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "She's been coming to me saying she wants to get back together with you, but at the same time, she's trying to keep me around. She's trying to play us both against each other." I felt anger bubbling to the surface. "Of course she is, that's classic Sarah." "Exactly," Mike continued. "But I care about you, and I didn't want to get caught up in her drama anymore. I think you deserve to know what's really going on." I could feel the tension in my chest as I processed his words. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want to make things right," he replied, his sincerity clear. "I didn't know how serious things were between you two when we started seeing each other. I didn't realize she was lying to both of us. I'm done with the games." I nodded slowly, trying to digest everything. "So what do we do now?" "I think we need to confront her together," he suggested. "If she's trying to manipulate both of us, she needs to be held accountable." The thought of confronting Sarah again stirred a mix of anger and apprehension. Part of me felt empowered at the idea of facing her, but I also feared what could come of it. "Are you sure that's the best route?" "I think it's the only way to put an end to this," Mike said firmly. "I want to be transparent with you, and I know you deserve that. Besides, if we both confront her, at least she can't play us against each other anymore." I sat back, considering his proposal. It felt like a risky move, but at the same time, I couldn't ignore the idea of finally putting an end to Sarah's games. "Okay, let's do it," I said, steeling myself for what was to come. We agreed to meet Sarah the following week at a cafe, a neutral ground where we could discuss everything openly. As the day approached, I felt a mix of anxiety and anticipation. I couldn't believe I was about to confront my past with her alongside Mike, the very person she had betrayed me with. When the day finally arrived, I arrived at the cafe with a knot in my stomach. Mike was already there, waiting at a table, and I felt a flicker of solidarity seeing him. We exchanged nods, both equally tense about what lay ahead. A few minutes later, Sarah walked in, scanning the room before her eyes landed on us. Her expression shifted from confused to defensive in an instant. She approached our table, crossing her arms across her chest. "What's going on? Why did you want to meet?" "Sit down, Sarah," I said firmly. She hesitated but eventually took a seat, her demeanor shifting as she sensed the tension. "What's this about?" Mike took a deep breath and spoke first. "We need to talk about what's been going on between the three of us." Her eyes darted between us, and I saw her swallow hard. "What do you mean?" "I mean we know you've been trying to manipulate us both," he pressed. "You need to stop playing games. It's not fair to either of us." Her expression hardened. "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not manipulating anyone." I leaned forward, trying to keep my voice steady. "But you are, Sarah. You've been trying to pull Mike back in while simultaneously trying to get me to come back to you. This isn't fair to either of us." She opened her mouth to respond but faltered for a moment, caught off guard. I wanted to explain myself." "Explain yourself. You've lied to both of us. You can't just come in here and act like you're the victim," I shot back, my frustration boiling over. "Look, I made mistakes and I'm sorry, but I want to make it right. I want us to work," she said, her voice rising slightly. "Work? After everything you've done," Mike interjected. "You can't expect us to just forget. You've hurt both of us." At that moment, I felt a rush of empowerment. We were standing together against her manipulation, two people she had tried to control. "You need to face the consequences of your actions, Sarah. We're both moving on and you need to do the same." Her eyes darted nervously between us, and for a moment I could see her mask slipping. "You don't understand," she said, her voice shaky. "I just want to fix this. I don't want to be alone." "You brought this on yourself," I replied, my voice steady. "We're done being your pawns. It's time for you to take responsibility." The tension in the air was thick as she processed our words. I could see the realization washing over her, and for the first time I felt a sense of closure. As we wrapped up our conversation, it became clear that Sarah wasn't going to change overnight. She might have genuinely wanted to fix things, but the damage had already been done. We walked out of the cafe, the weight of the confrontation lifting, and I felt a new sense of freedom. With that chapter finally closed, I knew I could focus on my own healing without the constant fear of her manipulation. It was a pivotal moment, and I felt empowered to embrace the future ahead. Next part to follow. After the confrontation at the cafe, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Standing together with Mike against Sarah had been cathartic. I realized that I was not just moving on from a relationship, I was reclaiming my life. The manipulation and deceit that had once clouded my existence were now fading into the background, replaced by clarity and purpose. In the days that followed, I gradually settled into my new life. I focused on rebuilding my identity, an identity that was no longer tied to Sarah and her whims. I found comfort in my routine, embracing the solitude of my new home. I rearranged furniture, picked out new artwork, and took long walks through the nearby park. I was finally learning to live for myself. I also spent more time with my friends, who were supportive throughout this journey. We shared laughs, stories, and experiences that filled the void Sarah had left behind. I recalled moments of joy that had seemed distant during my marriage. I had forgotten how liberating it felt to be free from the weight of deception. As I continued to heal, I decided to take a trip to clear my mind. I booked a weekend getaway to a cabin in the mountains. It was quaint and secluded, a perfect place to reflect on everything that had happened. The moment I stepped into the cabin, I felt a surge of tranquility. The air was crisp, and the views were breathtaking. I spent my days hiking, exploring the nearby trails and soaking in the beauty of nature. The peacefulness enveloped me, and I found myself contemplating what I truly wanted in life. I thought about love, trust, and the kind of partner I envisioned for my future. It was a stark contrast to the turmoil I had just escaped. One evening, as I sat on the porch watching the sunset, I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. Despite the pain of betrayal, I realized that I had grown from the experience. It had forced me to confront my own self-worth and resilience. I had fought hard to reclaim my life, and now I was finally free. When I returned from my trip, I felt rejuvenated. I had come to terms with my past while looking forward to what lay ahead. I began to explore new hobbies like photography and cooking. I even enrolled in a few classes to learn more about things I was passionate about. Each step was a testament to my progress. As the months passed, I made a conscious effort to keep my heart open. I dated casually, meeting different people, and enjoying the process of getting to know them without the weight of commitment. I was cautious but willing to trust again. Each date was an opportunity to rediscover what I wanted in a partner. And then, one evening, I met someone who caught my eye, Emily. She was warm, genuine, and funny. We connected over shared interests, and our conversations flowed effortlessly. Unlike Sarah, there was an honesty to our budding relationship that felt refreshing. I found myself laughing and enjoying life again. As our relationship blossomed, I felt a sense of hope I hadn't experienced in a long time. Emily understood my past but didn't dwell on it. She encouraged me to embrace my newfound freedom and pursue my passions. I could feel myself opening up again, allowing someone into my heart without fear. One night, after a particularly enjoyable outing, I found myself reflecting on how far I had come. I was no longer shackled by the chains of betrayal. I had learned to navigate my own path, finding strength in vulnerability and learning to trust myself again. Looking back, I realized that while the journey had been painful, it had also been transformative. I had emerged stronger and wiser, ready to embrace whatever life had in store for me. The scars of betrayal would always be a part of my story, but they no longer defined me. As I sat on my porch one evening looking out at the horizon, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I was grateful for the lessons learned, the friendships forged, and the love I was beginning to embrace again. Life was a journey, and mine was just beginning to unfold anew. I had reclaimed my life, and I was ready to face whatever came next, knowing that I had the strength to overcome anything. That was my journey, my story, and I was finally proud to be living it.